Hello and welcome to Battle Magic update number 5. That's right, number 5. If you remember what I needed to get done, what I wanted to get done by today, last Monday, I'll go over that right now. There were a lot of really big, impressive sounding goals. I actually didn't think I was going to get them all done because they just sounded really overwhelming, but I managed to pull through. So let's see. I wanted to get spell menu complete. I had all the spells question mark. If I had the time for that, we'll find out. I wanted to add triggers to make the text box appear and disappear. I wanted to draw the basic UI at the bottom and move the text box from the bottom space up to, I don't know, anywhere else. As for our bonus points, I wanted to finish the walls for the whole tutorial level. I wanted to organize the code a little bit and create a Fire Strike spell animation. And so I know I just threw those all out there. Let's see what I did get done. Yep. Okay, so first up, let's see. Spell menu complete, all the spells. So, in addition with the spell menu, I created this neat little orb bubble floating thing. Basically, it's a way for you to tell which spell that color you've casted so far, because each spell is a combination of 3 different colors, and there are 4 colors in together. And so now you're able to tell which color you've casted, as opposed to just having to remember, which is just silly. So now we have orange, and so as far as the spell menu gets, spell menu is supposed to pop up after you casted 2 colors, and there we have it. We have the spell menu. It's all there. And here's a quick listing of the 4 different kinds of spells of the orange color. The orange one is E, by the way. It's Exort. So Exort makes a Fire Strike. EEQ makes Mana Burn. EEW makes Melt Armor, and EER makes Armor Piercing. Now if I type in a third color, the spell menu disappears, because at this point it knows that I have selected Mana Burn, and it's just a matter now. Well, I'll get into that later. However, the spell menu is complete, and actually I got all the spells in there, so as you can, I'll show you. Like I just said, EEQ is Mana Burn, so if I undo the last exort and then type in a Q now instead, Mana Burn appears at the bottom because it's still the same combination. 2 exorts and 1 quas, or 2 oranges and 1 blue, will make the Mana Burn spell. Pretty nifty. There's a whole bunch of spells in here. 20 unique spells altogether, and they are all shown in this spell menu, depending on... it shows them in the right place. I had already tested this, and I'm really excited about that, and I actually made this all pretty... well, no, the spell menu did take quite a while. The rotating bubbles also had some little bugs with that, but got resolved pretty quickly. Alright, so next up, I wanted to add triggers to make the text box appear and disappear. I did not do that. The text box is still always visible. I kind of just left it alone for a while just because I didn't want to deal with it. Alright, aside from that, I wanted to draw the basic UI at the bottom, which we have here. It's this empty gray box with another flashing frame around it. I'm still working on the background color exactly. I want it to be a darker gray. I still want something darker than this even. That's just a minor nitpick right now. It's what I wanted, and it's done. And I also wanted to move the text box, which I did. The text box is at the top here. I mean, that's really obvious if you've been watching the last few videos. As far as the bonus points, I wanted to finish the walls for all of the levels, and as I'll quickly show you, well, I can't show you too quickly. The player doesn't move that fast. I like the player's speed, but it's not extremely fast when you want to showcase the entire level. But indeed, I got all the walls complete. There's one bug that's coming up. There's a little gap right here that I need to close up. I know what that's about, though, no problem. But in general, I got that bonus point complete, and that's everything I did the past 4 days. Pretty impressive. I'm pretty excited with myself. I got all that done. It's a lot more than... I honestly didn't expect myself to get it all done, but I'm really glad that I did. It's good of me to accomplish my goals. So anywho, that's the latest goings on with this. I want to go step out for a second to show you, talk about a little problem I was having with some of the player movement code. because if there's any programs, other indie game developers out there, this might be interesting of you. That's also extremely rudimentary. So essentially the player, which I'll show here, this little circle, he is actually being drawn right now in Java by this rectangle. So his entire position is held in a rectangle, which is a square around it. I know I said this before. And so Java holds onto a rectangle via keeping track of its position and width and height in integers. And this really doesn't work out if you're trying to do active rendering, or to put it another way, if you're actually trying to move the player based on a really minuscule amount of time change between each frame, which is usually, if you're getting good frame rates, like 20 milliseconds per frame. Less than that even, sometimes it can drop down to 1 or 5. And so in this case, in order to get the player to move at a pretty slow speed, or a reasonable speed, if you multiply 2 times a really tiny number, you're more often than not going to get something less than 0 or less than 1. Which, yes, exactly, less than 1, not less than 0, but less than 1. So what this means is when it gets converted to an integer, everything past the decimal point is just forgotten, in which case means a lot of the time it's not going to move smoothly. And so as I was increasing the frame rate a little bit, doing some it wasn't actually even optimization, I was just basically making the game sleep less because I needed more processing power. Maybe I'll get into it another time, but I was basically forcing the game thread to wait a little bit because I wasn't using up all the time, and having it run at 1 or 2 milliseconds per frame was just a little unnecessary. So I forced it to have around 100 milliseconds per frame, but then I dropped that, and then I started running into issues where the player wasn't moving very smoothly because of the problem I just described. So anyway, back in the code, I had to create a float for the player's position X and the position Y. This is what actually gets updated, and if there's enough to convert it to an integer, then it actually moves the rectangle as well. What I don't like about it is that it has basically, the player has 2 variables for its position, which is unnecessary, but at the same time it works and it's done, and I'm not going to really worry about it, because if I worried about little tiny things like that all the time, I wouldn't have time to get the bigger parts of the game done. And I've learned to just move on from little problems like that and instead work on actually getting the game done. And to wrap it up for this video, I want to talk about what I want to get done by next Monday. Since I really don't have much else to talk about, I want to add the final spell selection menu. That's basically what would happen after typing in this third bubble, this third color. A little box should appear saying, like, you've selected stun. In this case, it costs this much mana, it'll be on cooldown for this long, and kind of give a short description about what the spell you can expect it to do and how to cast it. So that way, for really new players, if you don't have all the spells memorized, you can you can just pull it up and say, like, oh, okay, I think this is the spell I want. Hit the space bar and then click, and now you've casted the spell. So I want to get that final spell selection menu complete. I want to draw inside the interface the player's health, the player's mana, their experience points, and the spell diamonds is what I'm calling it. It's these little different colored diamonds here. These are also going to be at the bottom, because the player will, as they level up, they get to choose which of these diamonds to increase their basically level in that diamond with. So that way, if you constantly keep picking exort diamond or orange one, you will have really strong damage spells. And so, like, even EEQ, Mana Burn, either has one blue bubble, it'll still be mostly, all of its damage will be based off the exort bubbles. And so the more orange color the better you are with the orange color, the better your damage will be, the higher your damage. And that same thing kind of goes with the blue bubbles. The better your blue, the better your healing will be. With the R, that'll better your armor. For W, it's kind of better stuns and kind of stuff over time. And so I want to display that at the bottom as well as the player's level. And to further extrapolate, as I start implementing leveling up and selecting which diamond you want to level up in, the circle is going to change color. That's why it's gray right now. which is a really boring color. It's because at level 1 everything's 1, therefore I'm just making it gray. But as you pick more green, your character will become more green. As you pick more blue, your character will turn more blue. So that way you can always tell like what you are really proficient at. And as I add multiplayer, which to be honest probably isn't going to happen this month, but I would really like to see that happen with this game, especially if it actually does turn out to be fun like I'm hoping it will be. Adding so that way you can tell what other players are really proficient at, and you can change what you're really good at accordingly. That was really long-winded, and to create, I wanted to also create a Fire Strike spell, this one here. Basically just have the first spell, then from there I'll be able to extrapolate the other spells hopefully pretty easily. So I want to be able to have that up and be able to cast it, have its animation and mana cost, and that's mostly it right now. I haven't until I add actual enemies, I won't be able to test to see if it actually does damage and things like that yet, but that will be coming as soon after. And finally, I want to have the text box actually appear and disappear depending on where the player is, and then actually change its text to teach the player new and important things, because that's what the tutorial needs to do. That's what this box is all here about. As a bonus point, if I somehow manage to get all of that done in the next 3 days, I want to add indications where the player is moving to. Like for right now, you can probably hear me clicking around, but you don't know where the player is moving, and it's easy to forget like where the player is going, especially when you enter big regions like this, where the whole screen is black. I have no idea if I'm moving, where I'm moving to, because there's nothing around, there's nothing I can do. Or even along a wall, it's hard to tell I'm moving left or right. It just looks like I'm moving up and down really. And so if by adding a little indications, like a little target that would remain right here, and as I got closer it would move towards the player and eventually stop once the player got to it, it'd be I think that would help make it easier to understand the game more and make it easier to play. So that's something important to add. Anywho, that's it. Very long-winded, I know. Thank you for watching, though. I really appreciate it. This build will be available up on my website for you to test and play. So that way you can have fun drawing colors, having watching them spin around, and that's it. Because it doesn't do anything else right now. But enjoy doing that in the meantime. Thank you for watching.